Hey y'all, today's objective is solving literal equations. And when it means the word literal, it's talking about some sort of formula or equation and you're solving it for a different variable. So literal is like the equation or formula with a lot of letters, literal letters. So for an example, let's pretend you have perimeter of a square. So the perimeter of a square is 4s. But we want to solve it for s. So let's say the problem gave you the perimeter and it's asking you how long is each side. So to rewrite this question, you would divide each side by 4. So you would divide by 4, and then you would have p over 4 equals s. And that's how you would solve a literal equation. So a literal equation is going to give you an equation or a formula, and it's going to ask you to solve it for a different variable, solve for s. So let me show you some examples. Alright, so these are volume examples. Volume of a cone, pyramid, and sphere. So the volume of a cone is 1/3 pi r squared times h. H means height. So in this equation, right now, it's solving for volume. But I want you to solve it for h. So I've highlighted the h. And what we have to do is we have to work backwards to isolate the h. We want to get the h by itself. For me, personally, the first thing to do is to get rid of fractions. And in order to get rid of fractions, you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So if this is 1/3, the reciprocal would be 3 over 1. And I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So this would be 3v equals pi r squared h. So I've multiplied by the reciprocal to cancel out this fraction right here. Then I want to get h by itself. So all of these right here, this is pi times r squared times h. In order to undo times, we would have to divide. So I would divide both sides by everything that's being multiplied by h. So I would go ahead and I would divide by it all. And h equals 3 times the volume divided by pi r squared. So we have solved a literal equation for another variable. I don't have an answer, I don't have a numerical answer because that's not part of it. This is a literal equation, so literally we're keeping the equation the same. We're solving for a different variable. The volume for a pyramid is 1/3 base squared times h. So again, I would multiply by the reciprocal to get rid of that fraction. So again, I have 3v equals base squared h. Now I'm solving for b, so I need to get rid of this h. I can't do anything about the square yet. You have to get rid of that h. So I'm going to divide both sides by h. And now from the Pythagorean theorem, we know in order to undo a square, you have to take the square root. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I'm left with b. And I am not trying to actually solve it out. You can't type that in your calculator because we don't know v and h. So I leave it just like this. The square root of 3v over h would give me b. Okay, so now let's do the volume of a sphere. A sphere is written 4/3 pi r cubed. Just checking the time. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So now I have 3/4 volume equals pi r cubed. Now notice in this one, it's not just asking for r, it wants you to leave it as r cubed, which is nice, because then we just have one more step. The difference here is asking for b, not b squared, but b. Here it's asking for r cubed. So I'm going to divide by pi, because these are being multiplied by each other. And r cubed is going to be 3/4 times volume over pi. Now, it's going to be weird having a fraction and a fraction. That's going to look awfully weird. So from there, you could take it a step further. Because dividing by pi would be multiplying by 1 over pi, but we're just going to leave it right here for right now. And just know that in class we might take that to a next step, but just leave it right there for right now in the video and let me know, write down any questions that you have. Alright, so some more formulas. Area of a rectangle, area of a triangle, and then the distance formula. So if you have the area as length times width and we want to solve for W, so we want to get W all by itself, that means we would undo this multiplication, so we would divide both sides by L. So area divided by L equals W. So that one wasn't too bad. Area of a triangle, 1/2 BH. We want to solve for H. So I'm going to put a box around my H. And the first thing I want to do is get rid of that fraction. So again, you multiply by the reciprocal to get rid of that fraction. And I'm left with 2A equals BH. To undo that multiplication, you're going to divide. So I have 2A over B equals H. The distance formula, I want to solve for T, so I want to get T by itself. That means I would need to divide by R. So the distance divided by the rate will give us the time. Alright, so here are a couple of examples when you have two parts. Like everything we've done so far is just multiplying or dividing. This one has an addition or subtraction sign. So if you are looking for the perimeter is twice the length plus twice the width of a rectangle. So you add up the length and then the width. If we want to solve for L, this one right here, first we need to get rid of this part, this 2W. Not the 2 yet, we need to get rid of this 2W. So we're going to subtract 2W from both sides. So I'm left with P minus 2W equals 2L. I just subtracted this whole unit and moved it over there. Now, in order to get rid of the 2, I can divide both sides by 2. So I'm left with P minus 2W over 2 equals L. Now, I use a cursive L because just a regular L looks like a 1. So for me, I use a cursive L. With shoe size, there's this really neat formula. Your shoe size can be determined if you measure your foot, I have to go back and look at it, but the F represents your foot. So if you measure your foot and you multiply it by 3 and then you take away 24, I think that gives you your shoe size. But I can't remember if you have to measure it in inches or centimeters. I'll have to look that one up. But we want to solve for F. I'm going to add 24 to both sides, and I get S plus 24 equals 3F. S plus 24 equals 3F. Then I can divide both sides by 3. So S plus 24 divided by 3 is going to give us F. So what that means is if you take your shoe size and you add 24 and then divide by 3, that should be how long your foot is. So I wear a size 5, sometimes a 4. But if I wear a size 5, 5 plus 4 is 29, divided by 3 is going to be almost 10. That means that this would be like 10 inches. So maybe we can try that in class. Here's a you try. So R equals 3A plus 5C, and I want you to solve for A. So I want you to try this one on your own, and then we will go over it in class, and we're going to practice more of literal equations tomorrow.